Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of the Money Club series of 2021. I am Zar, the boss of personal finance, and introducing Mr. Conservative, Sam Eljerban.
What an introduction. Hey guys.
You know what we should do? We should get Bruce Buffer from the UFC in to introduce you, like introducing the Conservative. You're just like, notorious Conor McGregor. It's the same.
Get him on Instagram, see if he'll talk to us.
Because you are Mr. Conservative, aren't you? You've got plenty of names. The human calculator, everything.
The abacus, I get called sometimes.
Where did that come from? Who calls you that?
I just made it up then.
Anyway, we're on a podcast, so what are we talking about today?
What are we talking about today?
Well, how was your Christmas break, by the way?
I was preparing for opportunities ahead. No, Christmas break was good. Wasn't much to do. Still COVID's hanging around. I jumped on the bike a few times. Went for rides up to the Hunter Valley.
That sounds beautiful.
It was really nice. A good breakaway. Avoiding the police as well, as you do
with
on a motorbike.
Beard?
Yeah, and a motorbike, a beard, and a motorbike.
And a backpack.
Yeah, they don't mix.
Yeah. Not a good mix for you.
Not in our country towns either, so it's not that
Speaking of country towns, I went to Byron Bay for my Christmas break, and it was like going to Bondi. You know, it was basically the whole of Sydney went to Byron Bay, and
you couldn't escape.
So I basically didn't have a holiday, but no, I had a great time. Byron's awesome. The food's incredible, and we had a nice break, and we're recharged, ready to go. So 2021 is basically the start of the new decade, because last year was just a complete write-off. Yeah. You know, half of the year we were locked down, the other half we were shitting our pants. So we basically didn't do anything. So
That's right.
What we want to do is sort of now talk about what we can do to prepare for the opportunity, because I feel like what's happened is there's been this bottleneck of things just going on pause. Mm-hmm. And the government's come in and done a great job with, throwing money at the economy, keeping it going, all of that sort of thing. And what it's creating is a lot of opportunity when the floodgates kind of open up. We've got, responsible lending laws getting scrapped in March. We've got, record low interest rates. Immigration hasn't, they haven't opened up the borders yet, but when they do, it's going to go off.
It is poised for a bit of growth, right? So I think the government's done a good thing, like you've said, and everything is going in the direction for a lot of growth. There's a lot of money out there.
So last year, Sam, was a testing time for many. Unfortunately, a lot of people got hurt. Financially, emotionally, spiritually,
even physically,
mentally.
You got the virus.
Yeah,
you got it as well.
Yeah, exactly right. So, but I found that the people that really fared well were the rich.
Yeah.
They didn't even need to quarantine, right? They just went straight home.
They'd fly private jets to places.
And I guess what we want to do is go, okay, well, what can we do to prepare ourselves for the next downturn? Because there will be another downturn. Like if you guys are millennials, you're under the age of 30, you will see another downturn. It will happen.
Yeah. And why do the wealthy sit pretty at the top once these things do happen? Is because they're prepared. They have money behind them, they have assets behind them that if you do not have, you might struggle through these hard times. So what you want to do now is reassess what you have and where you want to be in case this thing happens again, and you're prepared. That's what it's all about.
And it's like there's so many different changes now. Like the new normal is it's so different to 12 months ago or 18 months ago. We have to wear masks, we have to social distance, so we can't cuddle each other anymore.
You have to tap in wherever you go.
You've got to check in everywhere. Yeah. I mean, the changes are endless, right? But they're sort of here to stay.
Yeah.
So we now need to sort of adapt to reality, whether we support it or not, right? We need to sort of go, okay, well, what can we do which is in our control, right, to enhance our position for next time this happens, or for the next 10 years, right? Now, our previous podcasts have been quite intense. We've talked, I think, the last podcast we did was about the blueprint, the quadrants,
where you are, how to transition, all that kind of stuff.
Sometimes we talk, some very complex, complex subjects about tax and saving and all of that sort of thing, investments. And what we want to do is really strip it all back and go back to the basics, because I feel that people overcomplicate things. Right? There are so many things that people can do within their control and that don't cost any money, right, to really enhance their life. And whether that's, through health, wealth, or whatever it is, there are so many things that we can do. So what we've prepared today is 10 tips on what you can do to start off 2021. And I guess it's sort of cliche, right? Like we're talking about, New Year's resolutions and all of that sort of stuff. But look, New Year's resolutions are great if they actually stick with you the whole year. And the problem why people shit on New Year's resolutions so much is because they don't stick. Like the old, join up to the gym on the 2nd of January because the 1st of January you've got a hangover, and then
February it's empty.
February the gym's empty, right? So what we want to do is instill these habits for life and remind people that, you know what, like, it's not that hard. And I think sometimes we forget the basics. So we're going to go right back to the basics. So the first tip we've got here is to improve your skills.
We talk about this nearly every week, every second week, all the time. And we are constantly doing it ourselves because we see its importance, and we have to. In our industries, we have to sort of stay at the forefront of what's happening to advise our clients. So by default, we are doing that. To anyone that's not doing it, it doesn't take much, a couple of hours a week in your chosen field, whatever it is you're interested in. Start spending time in it. Start developing your skills in that area. And when the time comes where you have to, flourish in an environment like this, where there's less jobs, less business activity, blah, blah, you can maybe perform. Right, so it's one of the most cost-effective ways to improve your skill set is to, I guess, read books. Right, and you've picked up a really good habit this year, and you want to tell our listeners what that habit is? Actually, rubbed off from a friend of mine who's doing it himself. Reading a book a week, if you can. And I think, do you have a similar?
So last year I hit 54 books, and I actually, I write them down. I write down the title of the book. I've got it in the front of my diary, and I'll write the title and the author and what number that book is. And obviously you want to track one a week. Last year I hit 54.
Wow!
And what reading one book a week. It's not just reading one book a week and just going, okay, I've hit that target. It's really reading something that you can apply to your everyday life. Whether that's business or your relationship at home, whatever it is.
Practical stuff.
Practical stuff. And what it does, it really teaches you that there is so much information out there. The more I read, the less arrogant I become. And the better I become at making money, the better I become at investing, the better husband I become, right? The better person I become in society. I can give back so much more. Even with these podcasts, right? The reason why I have so much to say is because I consume so much good stuff.
100%. I find books especially very effective because you're essentially, depending what you're reading. I'm reading a few economist books at the moment just to understand the economy, especially now given what's happening. And what you're really doing is absorbing their 30, 40 years experience in their field, and you're getting it in 2 weeks' time if you read a book in 2 weeks' time. So very valuable, very efficient way to learn and to broaden your knowledge, which is very important these days.
I'm actually really glad that I'm friends with you, Sam, because I don't have to read those books. I just have to ask you, because those books sound very fucking boring.
I'm giving you one for your birthday, mate. Don't worry.
Please don't. That's punishment. All right, number 2.
Yes.
This one's very simple, right? And it's going to sound so simple, and people are going to think, okay, why are you talking about this on the Money Club? But
it's hard to stick to. That's why.
Even for me, this week, we're talking about exercise here. This week...
How many times did you go?
None. I took the week off.
I went twice.
Even for someone like me, I took a week off going to the gym. It is so easy to do. Now, it's not just exercise, it's eating clean, it's avoiding alcohol, avoiding drugs, all of that sort of stuff, right? But realistically, that's going to prepare you for the next health crisis,
100%.
right? The next pandemic.
Yep.
If you are, in super tip-top condition, even if you get COVID, for example, you're just going to shoulder shrug that shit. You know what I mean? You're just going to go, okay, well, yeah, I've got it, but it's going to be gone soon because I'm fit and healthy. Now, if you're overweight and smokers are really bad, right? Because they've got damaged lungs.
Yep.
It's going to impact them more, and there's no point making all this money, investing it, and not having your health.
Another important one is your mental health. So physical health can translate into mental health. So I think the healthier you can be in your body, the more so in your mind as well. Especially now, there's a lot of, I would say, depression out there given the economy. So the economic circumstances are affecting people emotionally now. So if you can combat that in other ways, such as being as fit as you can be, and that activity of training and things like that, giving you the endorphins, making you feel happier, you'll get through things a lot easier.
The mental health is an interesting one, Sam, because when we got locked down, alcohol sales went through the roof, right?
People were taking the money out of super. Do you know where it all went?
Alcohol.
Gambling and alcohol.
Wow.
That's why the government went, what the hell's going on?
And as we all know, alcohol is an antidepressant. It makes you feel great, and then, obviously you feel shit afterwards. And that's just not going to do anything for your mental health. And a lot of people thought, okay, well, if I'm at home, I can sort of obviously just do whatever I want. I'll just, drown in my sorrows. But you're just sort of digging yourself a deeper hole, and it's not the most healthiest habit to have when, I guess, you're bored. I think what you should be doing is going back to the first step, and if you are bored, pick up a book or sign up to that course. I think now that we have connection to the internet, right?
No excuse.
Imagine if we got locked down 30 years ago. I probably would have gotten on the drink and drowned, found the answer at the bottom of the bottle. But what we've got to remember is now we are able to sort of keep ourselves occupied in a productive way. So it doesn't matter if we're locked down. I didn't really have a problem when we were locked down. I actually grew.
I found a good website, just for a tip for listeners. If you're looking to get some essentially free formal education, I won't give qualifications or anything, place called Khan Academy on YouTube. Have you heard of it?
What's it called?
The Khan Academy, Khan.
I've never heard of it.
Very good YouTube, I think it's YouTube. A lot of courses online for free, like university type courses. So you can essentially get up to speed.
And it's free?
Free, the Khan Academy. Really good.
So you getting paid by them?
No, but maybe they will. Maybe they will pay us after this.
Let's tag them in the links. Yeah. Okay. So third one, right? After you've invested in yourself, you're in tip-top condition. Invest in a business. Right? Even if you're an employee, we talked about it in our last podcast about, being an employee, being part of that quadrant, you should always try and invest in a business. Start off with a side hustle, or, it could be a part-time job, or you could buy and sell things on eBay, whatever it is, you need multiple sources of income, right?
And businesses have, as we know, the highest return. So property is good to invest in, shares are good to invest in to get growth over time. But the quickest return, the highest return, usually business. Would we agree?
Well, we talked about this with a client during the week. He came in, right? So for our listeners, this client came in and he's got a little bit of money. He's new to business. He's only been in business for about a year. And he said to us he wanted to improve his business and then also buy property, right? Which is a great goal to have, a really good goal to have. But his business was still in its infancy stage. And we felt that he should be going all in with his business because he's young, right? He's got no kids. He's able to take on that risk. But, the main takeaway of that conversation was that the biggest return on investment is usually from your business. Because a lot of people debate over shares, property, commodities, which we'll get into later, right? But what we can't forget that most people build their initial wealth from their business.
Well, that's where you put your profit from your business, is into those other assets. So you have to make the profit first, which is either an employee type savings or in business your profit. So what he found, that client, was that there was a lot of potential in his industry and in his business. So putting that money to work in his business for now is probably better and will get him propelling forward more to then do property deals.
I want to spend a bit of time on this, Sam, because it actually applied to me a long time ago. Because I used to think, okay, I'll put money into property, and then I'll put a little bit into business, and then you spread yourself out too thin. I kind of wish if I could turn back time, was to pour pretty much 90% of my time and money into business, and then as that business grows and becomes more well established, then start thinking about deploying it into more conservative assets like shares and property and commodities and all of that sort of thing. And then you can start thinking about maybe Bitcoin and all of those other things that are a little bit more riskier, right? Which we'll get into again further on. But
see, that's your experience, and how valuable is that?
Yes.
Just, if you were to write a book, for example, and someone read that, our client might not even ask that question. He would have just said, okay, from that book, I'm going to do that.
It's a very common dilemma, Sam. And, you know, for our listeners, we actually get a lot of clients coming in saying, I don't know what to do. Do I put it into business? Do I put it into myself? Do I put it into real estate? What is it that I do? And it's always, pretty much most of the time, if you don't have a surplus of cash coming in all the time, every month from your business, then your business needs work.
That's right.
Right? Like if your business has debt, your business needs work, right? If you're not in positive, then don't be thinking about those other things. Focus on the one thing first. And it's one of the things that I probably made a mistake of in the past, is that I spread myself too thin, and I tried to be a master of all of these different things, and then I just became shit at everything, right?
It slowed you down.
Slowed me down. Like if I could turn back time, focus on the one thing, get really, really good at it, and then lean into everything else ongoing. Fourth one is...
basics.
One that you say all the time.
The 101, save money. All comes down to basic budgeting. Hard to do for some people, but if you really look at it, spend some time, be disciplined, forego some luxuries for now, knowing that you're preparing yourself for a better future. It's very easy to do.
Okay, let's reword this, because everyone's going to just glaze over it and go, yeah, save money, right? We don't want to save money. Let's change the words, right? Because saving money is actually not good, right? You got to think about it. What's money doing right now?
Money as an investment is shit.
It's going down in value, right? So let's call it save capital. What do we do with capital?
Deploy it.
We use it, right? So as soon as you hear the word capital, you go, all right, I'm actually saving capital to use it for something.
Building
right?
capital.
You're storing it away so that you can deploy it somewhere and put it to work. You're sending it to war, right? But when you talk about saving money, people think,
it's not as, it doesn't sound as good,
Sounds so boring.
Boring.
You know? I'm going to go to Dan Murphy's and hit the bourbon instead, right? Like it's really, really bad, right? Let's start saying saving capital. Now, when you say saving capital, all of a sudden you have this goal to use it for something, like buy a house.
A productive use.
Put it into a business. Now you've got this target. And also, when you say save capital, don't say like, okay, I'm saving $500 a week in capital. No, annualize it. Times it by 52, then all of a sudden it's 25 grand a year or 26 grand a year.
It makes it worthwhile.
And then all of a sudden you get motivated and you move towards it, right? But if you're thinking, oh, I'm saving $500 in capital a week, all of a sudden a $500 bill comes up or an opportunity or a distraction, like Bitcoin, for example. Your mate goes, oh, here, I'll sell you $500 worth of Bitcoin. And then you go, well, I've got this $500 here. I'll put it towards it. But if you've got this $26,000 target annualized, right, for capital to put into something specific, right? And it could be more than that. It could be less, whatever floats your boat, right? But use bigger numbers to really, really motivate you to save more capital.
That's a very good point. I never really thought about it like that. Having the end goal and annualizing it, making the number a lot more substantial, allows you to think more broadly, more bigger, for using that money. So I think that's a very good tip.
It's really good. When you set these targets, right, you do anything to get to it, right? I still, for example, bring my lunches to work, right? Like, and that's just a habit that I have from years and years and years of saving capital. But you know what? I've got the best assets, I've got the best businesses, I've got the best people on board. So the sacrifice does really pay off. And I think it's so overlooked. So overlooked. Number 5, invest in real assets. What are real assets, Sam?
Real assets are not fake assets. So it could be anything, really, that's giving you a return. An asset, in my eyes, in the accounting industry, is something that gives you a return or capital growth, something that's going to make you money. That could be gold, silver, property, digital assets like Bitcoin, anything really that's going to give you a return.
So I guess for me, real assets, when you say real assets, it's like things that you can touch and feel. So
like
I guess,
stuff.
like
tangible stuff.
You know, I'm into gold, silver, you know, platinum.
Property.
I never was into gold, silver and platinum, but I've just recently really learnt about it, and I've enjoyed the education, so now I'm sort of a fan of it. Yes, property, because, you know, it's bricks and mortar, it's land. And, you know, I don't know, shares to me, I guess you could call it real assets, but to me it's quite volatile. Bitcoin, can you touch and feel it? That's a you know, like, what do you think of Bitcoin, Sam? I think it's come back a bit now. Like,
yeah, it has. It's a bit volatile. It's a volatile thing. I think.
How much is a Bitcoin at the moment, currently?
Last time I looked, about 40 grand.
All right. So for our listeners, this is 23rd of January 2021.
It's about 40 grand.
And it's at 40 grand. I think it was at 50 about a month ago. Yeah.
So yeah, or even more maybe.
Wow.
But big jumps. Big jumps. So big money to be made, but also what does that mean? Big money to lose as well if you buy at the wrong time. I'm always of the opinion to invest in what you know. If you know Bitcoin, you know how it works, which, you know, it's quite complicated when you look into it. If you're happy to risk that and invest, do it. But invest in what you know. Most common things: property, some shares, bullion, different types of premium metals, precious metals. Stick to what you know. It's generally a tried and true formula to growing wealth over time.
I think the Bitcoin's like the bright shiny lights, right? Like, people get distracted by it. We've actually got some clients, unfortunately, that have been distracted by it. And I say unfortunately because they were on the path of just building this big portfolio, and they've actually stopped buying property, and they're trying to put this money into crypto and all of that sort of thing, which good on them. Like, that's their decision. I can't change that. But for me, it's like I follow this general rule of thumb. If I want to hedge inflation, I'll put it into commodities, right? Gold, silver, platinum. If I want to invest and get a yield, I'll put it into property, right? If I want to get the biggest return on investment, I'll put it in my business. Those 3 things. That's all it is. Now, people might go, oh, why wouldn't you venture into, you know, other stuff? Because you can, right? Like, you've actually got the capital now and the backing to do it. And it's like, you know what? I might dabble here and there. Like, I might buy a Bitcoin, right? But if I lose 40 grand, for example, it's not going to change my life. Like, I can afford to lose it.
You can experiment.
I've now got that capital to burn, right? Whereas 10 years ago, when I first started building my portfolio, I didn't have that capital to burn. So I can't risk, you know, doing these exotic investments. So stick to what you know, right? Invest in real assets that you can touch and feel because you can trust it. Yeah, you might not get those spikes where it's like a 30, 40, 50% jump in 6 months, right? But you're also not going to get that drop.
Correct.
That's going to be like 30, 40%.
Correct.
And, you know, a lot of our listeners, they can't afford that drop. So, you know, invest in what you know.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, number 6.
Debt is now good. Get as much of it as you can. Why?
Well, we don't want to sound irresponsible here because we all grew up thinking that debt was bad.
Debt was bad,
right?
yes.
And we talk about good debt and bad debt all the time, nearly every podcast. But debt is actually so cheap now. It's actually like free money. We've got interest rates at around 2%, sometimes lower. Like, it really is free money. However, debt is like a loaded gun, as Robert Kiyosaki says, right? It can save your life or it can kill you. And you've really got to know how to manage it. Now, I would suggest every one of our listeners to get as much good productive debt as possible. What is productive debt?
Debt that's in an asset, so debt that's funded an asset purchase, that is going up in value or giving you a good return.
So going back to our previous tip on investing in real assets, getting debt to buy those things is actually quite good.
Yes.
Right? It's even getting to a point now where getting debt to buy things that go up in value but don't even produce a yield could be seen as a good idea.
Could be a feasible strategy. Have you seen any people out there doing those types of investments at this stage?
I have. I think it's quite risky, but at the end of the day, I would rather them go and get debt for something that is going to give them an appreciation of capital, rather than going out and buying things like, you can't go on holidays at the moment, but, putting holidays on credit cards, buying, brand new vehicles, all of that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
So I think, debt is good if you're getting a return. And that return may not even be money. That return could be exposure.
Yep.
If you're in a business and you need to get market exposure for something. So for example, if you bought, a $500,000 Lamborghini, but it got you market exposure and everyone had their eyeballs on you, and then they're going to go and do business with you, then that's good debt, right?
Yep.
Like you're getting a return. You might not get a direct monthly cash flow, but you're getting something from it.
It's giving you marketing value, potential customers, and then potential money. So
and
indirectly,
you would have to spend money on that anyway. So there are things that you can do that require debt that won't give you that monthly money cash flow, but indirectly will give you a return. So while debt's really, really cheap, and that's all debt. Yeah. All debt's quite cheap, right? Except for credit cards. But even car loans. Car loans are really, really cheap right now.
Correct. Yeah.
So if you're thinking about getting a car, go get one. As long as it's going to give you that return. So don't be scared of debt. Learn to manage it. That's the thing. We all grew up with the baby boomers telling us, get out of debt as fast as you can. Buy the home, pay off your mortgage, live debt free. No, we want heaps of debt because it's actually free.
It'll increase your asset size, bigger returns. So I think you made a very good point about the amplification debt can do. Very important thing. You can make a lot of money using the bank's money. You could also lose a lot of money using the bank's money. So be very careful and do your homework. Get people to help you invest that money very sensibly to make a good return.
We've talked about it in previous podcasts, Sam, where back in the day, it was actually quite easy because we had these high interest rates and you could just put money in the bank and get a really good return. You don't actually have to think, right? Yeah. Now, all of a sudden, we have this responsibility. If we put money in the bank, we're stuffed, right? If we invested in a bad asset, we're stuffed. So what we've got to do now is become really educated and go, hang on a second. Yep. We got to really nail this. We've got to do something. We're forced, right? And the thing is, no one wants to say, here's the blueprint, because no one wants to be responsible if you lose. That's right. So everybody needs to take responsibility and educate themselves and deploy this debt in the right direction. Yep. And you know what? If you lose, it's okay, right? Learn from it, move on. Do it again.
Just do something while you can. Man. While money's that cheap, do something with it.
Number 7, hustle.
You're the king of the hustle. So what's that about? Learning to create money from nothing.
Look, when you've come from nothing and you're constantly hungry, you become very creative. Like when you've got no money in the bank, you can't pay your rent, right? You've got a responsibility of other people as well. You've got employees under you and you've got zero capital. Yeah. All of a sudden, you find a way, right? And this is the problem with a lot of people who come from wealth. They fall into the trap of becoming too comfortable. They get bored and there's no hustle muscle.
We've talked about this a lot and we've had clients where they come into money, maybe inheritance, and they don't know how to grow that wealth, so they really hold on to it and don't want to depart with that because they're scared they can't actually regenerate that wealth if they lose it. So very different kind of mindset you need to adapt to, and without risk there's no reward. You have to start doing something.
This might sound really weird, but I love going to zero, right? I love getting all of my funds out of my account. I love having access to nothing because all of a sudden I've got to go out to the
Creative
marketplace.
juices start flowing.
That's right. I get creative and I start thinking, okay, how do I put deals together? How do I get someone else's money? How do I go and convince that bank over there to give me a loan, right? How can I match up another investor into this deal so that I can grow as well and basically it become a win-win for everyone. And it's not about the money.
Yep.
It's about the skill set that you learn along the way.
Yep. Yep.
And like you said, these people who come from wealth, and not all of them, right?
No.
A lot of them actually get taught very, very well. Yeah. But there are a lot of them that don't know how to regenerate those funds that they've been gifted. So what happens is that they hoard it,
Correct.
right? They become tight asses,
Yep.
and they don't let it out. And all they do is sit on it,
It dwindles
right?
away
And they
over
sit
time.
on it and they waste it, and and then when it's all gone, what do? They don't have the muscle.
They can't do nothing.
Right? So they've lived small in their minds because, but it's ironic, right? They come from wealth.
Yeah.
They come from old money wealth most of the time. Well, these are the people we're talking about.
Yep.
And then they inherit these funds, and then they go, okay, well, I might just deploy a little bit.
It's scarce to them.
They've got that scarcity
It's
mindset,
only limited.
right?
I can't
Where
lose.
with what I do is like I push it all out, right? Whether I win or lose, get rid of it, right? And then all of a sudden, my life's not boring, right? Because your life's not boring when you're sitting on heaps of cash.
Yep.
People think that when you're sitting on heaps of cash, you're gonna have the best life in the world. Okay, it makes it a little bit more comfortable, but I tell you what, you do get bored. You will get
lazy, right? If you kept $1 million in the bank, would you be as active in chasing clients, in presenting?
I wouldn't even be here doing this podcast. I'd be at home, my feet up, right? Getting fat.
So it's in a way motivating you to act.
Yeah, man.
So really,
stay lean.
Regardless where you are in this wealth cycle, I guess you could say, don't ever try and lose that, or try and adapt and include that in your repertoire.
You should never have a target of having $1 million in the bank, right? You should never have that target. You should have the target of having $0 in the bank, right? Get rid of it. As soon as it goes to 100, 200, 300, 400 grand, whatever floats your boat, right? Get rid of it. Your target is to go to zero, right? Because once you go to zero, you walk out those doors and man, you are hustling.
Yeah.
And if you do that for 10, 20, 30 years, imagine the muscle. You are completely self-sufficient. Robert Greene talks about this, famous author. Robert Greene talks about 50 Cent. Everybody knows 50 Cent. One of the most self-sufficient men on this planet. Got shot 9 times, right? He was brought up by his grandmother with, I think, 10 other kids. So he didn't really get the attention.
Yep.
So what did he do? Go out in the street. He hustled, right? Get rich or die trying. Everybody knows that. Everybody uses that line, but they don't know the background behind
story
it.
behind it.
He went to hustle when he was 14, 15 years old, on the corner, slinging bags or whatever it was he was doing, right? And then got shot 9 times, then had to come back from that and keep rapping. And you know what? Like, he didn't have money for a very long time.
Yeah.
That man is one of the most successful men on the planet. One of the most self-sufficient human beings on the planet. You can take everything away from him. Everything. You know what? He'll come back.
He'll make it again. Yeah.
He'll make vitamin water or whatever it is that he does, right? Right? And he'll get shot again, right? But then he'll come back.
He's got that skill.
He's got that skill
He's developed
set.
it.
And now
Hunger.
he's one of the most feared men in the world, right? Because you know that he can come back from the dead practically, right?
You can't get rid of him.
No,
He's
you
not-
can't.
he's not
You
going nowhere.
can't knock this guy. You know what I mean? He's around for a long time.
Weapon.
So if you really want to know the definition of hustle, it
Read his
means
book.
being creative, right?
Yeah. Read his book, 50 Cent.
He just come out with a new one, Hustle Harder.
Did he?
Yeah, really
Get
good
it
book. Good read.
Did you get it yet?
Oh man, I read it
Oh,
pre-release.
it's gone. Oh, okay.
Number 8.
Ooh, my favourite. This is my
Sam's
favourite.
getting aroused. Sam's getting very aroused.
Very important.
What
Why
is
is
it?
Why is it so important? The tax. It's so important because a lot of it goes to the government. You're spending a lot of time and money. A chunk of that goes to the government. What you really want to do to get a better return and more money in more capital in your pocket to deploy is to manage that as best you can. Very important thing.
So what are some of the things that people can do, Sam, to sort of claw back some of that tax?
Some quick tips. We won't go into it in detail. We've done a few podcasts on it in detail, but just know that not all deductions are the same. They're not all equal. Don't spend money on shit just to reduce your tax, because it's not economically sound. Spend your money on investments that can potentially give you a deduction, i.e. some investment properties, if you buy the right ones. You can grow your wealth, reduce your tax. Super is another important one to look at. If you're not maximising your super, that's a very good tax beneficial way to grow your wealth as well. Business assets, like we were talking about, deploying money into, say, a new truck or something that's going to give you, or a Lamborghini, it's going to give you a return. Business assets.
I like the new four-wheel drives.
The Lamborghini four-wheel drive.
Urus, I think they're called.
You like them?
Yeah. Can I claim that on tax, Sam?
We'll have to talk after the video.
We can be creative.
We can, but we just have to. We can't
can
tell
be
other
creative.
people.
So I guess why taxes is important, because we're in business, and or many of our clients are in business, and I think they don't understand that when, like, for example, if you put $1,000 in the bank into your business bank account, $400 of that is essentially gone.
More or less, yeah.
So you only really end up with $600. So how that $400 is broken up is 10% GST. So $100 would be GST, $300 would be income tax, and then you've got $600, which is yours. So if you don't learn to manage that, you're essentially losing almost half of your money. So it's really, really important to see what you can claw back, and the only way you're going to do that is team up with some really good accountants.
That's it. Get in touch if you need help.
Number 9. Oh, I love this one.
Do good business.
And that doesn't just mean if you're in business. It just means be a good person.
Yeah.
Do you know how many people I've done business with where they've ripped you off for the short term, and they've really, really just taken advantage of you, and then you just don't do business with those guys anymore. And I think the younger people really need to listen to this, because the younger people, and it's not their fault, they haven't been around for a long time. So they haven't had the ability to see the track record of a good relationship. But a great relationship pays more than short-term cash. Do you know how many business partners I've had, and they've just gone in for the short-term cash grab, where they could get 100, 200 grand, and whatever it is that they've ripped me off on. And it's like, well, I'm going to make a lot more than that. And you would have made a lot more than that with me.
If you stayed with me.
If you stayed around and maybe only taken, 10 or 20% of that, right? But, they decide to rob you, take all of your capital at the time, and think, oh, they've won. But you know what? All of those people now, they're all struggling. Because they live their life trying to do the short-term cash grab, which is not illegal. Like, they've got access to it, and we're all in business together, and you can do it. You can rip people off. It's you're not going to go to jail. But I would probably prefer to go to jail than have a reputation of stealing from someone.
They're burning bridges. So they burnt their bridge with you. So in business, what is business? Really, it's all about relationships. So if you're a person that's burning these relationships over time, those people that have done that to you would have done that to other people. At a certain point in time, no one's going to want to deal with them at all. And it'll be very hard to run a business if no one wants to deal with you. You rely on other people. Let's
go back to why this relates to preparing for opportunity. If you do good business with someone, right, and a crisis hits, and you're in need of something, can you pick up the phone and call on those good relationships that you have, that you've done really good business with, and ask for help?
100%.
Now, if you rip them off in doing a short-term cash grab, right, and you've burnt the bridge, would the person even pick up their phone
No.
when you're calling?
No.
They wouldn't, right? And then you're in a crisis. We need to prepare for the opportunities, because that opportunity might not be now, next year, or even in 10 years, right? I can pick up the phone with someone I've done business with 10 years ago, right? And they'll take my call and really want to help because I was so good to them back then, right? So it's really, really important. Do good business now, because when the next downturn comes and you need something...
Some help. You need people that are going to pick up the phone.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. This brings us to our last tip.
A very important one. Very important one. Hanging out with winners or people doing stuff.
You're a winner, Sam.
Thank you. Maybe because I hang out with you all the time.
Well, we rub off with each other, right? It's a good example. It's a good example.
There's many quotes out there. Your net worth is your network is your net worth. What's the other one? Show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
That's a good one. Dan Penner says that.
They all ring true in the end. So if you're hanging out with bad people, people doing irresponsible things, you're probably going to get caught up in that and head down that negative path.
You know what's really funny, Sam? Back in the day when I first started doing this personal development stuff, and people kept on saying, get rid of bad people out of your life. I'm thinking, oh yeah, get rid of the murderers that you hang out with and the drug dealers and all of that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
But really, what it is there's a lot of these people in disguise. There's a lot of these toxic people that don't want you to win.
Manipulative people.
Yeah. Unsupportive, right? These people could be in your family, you're right? And it's not like they are bad. They're bad for when you're on your path to success. And, they're going to do nothing for you when the next downturn occurs. When the next downturn occurs and you fall on your face, they're actually going to clap and be very, very chuffed.
Yeah.
They're going to be very impressed, and they're going to be so happy with themselves because they've always wanted you to fail. So those people, we all have them in our lives.
Yeah.
We really need to get rid of them. Don't hang out with them, even if they're in your family, or if you're married to them, get divorced. All of that stuff, right? Get rid of them.
We laugh about it, but it's very true.
Yeah.
Negative person in your life can hinder you a lot. I've experienced it. You probably experienced it.
I still experience it now,
still experience it.
Especially from doing the podcast, and I got a lot of exposure through social media.
Yep.
There's a lot of haters out there. There's so many people that don't like what I do,
Yep.
and it's disappointing. But you know what? I just don't hang out with those people. I don't make time for them. I don't go to events when they're there. It's just easier. I'd rather hang out with people like you.
Spend time with people who support you.
Right? So if you have a really good support network and you're hanging out with them every day, right? And you're exposed to them, right? And that could be like, for example, our clients. It's the reason why they come to us. It's the reason why they listen to this podcast, right? Is because they want to hang out with us.
They more or less are.
Because they know that if a downturn occurs, right, we're going to support them. I know if a downturn occurs and I fall flat on my face, I've got an army of people that are going to help me. Because the people that don't like me, the people that are unsupportive, man, I don't spend time with them anyway, so it doesn't affect me. So guys, that's 10 tips. That's 10 tips, and I guess there's plenty more. There's plenty more. It's pretty random, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But you know what? All of these tips actually don't cost any money.
Nothing.
They don't cost any money. It's just your time. It's just effort. It's just really, being proactive and being able to foresee the future that we are going to hit another downturn. So it's a perfect time. It's the start of the year. Oh, well, we're already a month in. To January. We've got 11 months left of the year. It's crazy how fast time flies. So now's the time, guys. Now's the time while the conditions are great here in Australia, and the opportunities here. We have no COVID cases, but we have access to all of these things that we've talked about.
That's right.
Everything.
Get prepped. Get prepped.
Get prepped. Get prepped. All right, guys, that's it for episode 1 of 2021, the Money Club series. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Thanks for listening. See you soon.
Thanks, guys.